everybody. Missouri rules, yeah. Homeboy from Missouri right here, born and raised. I was born in Independence, raised on a horse farm in Peculiar. Woo! Yep, I went to Ray Peck, yeah, another Peculiar boy over there. We are a peculiar guy. I'm running for president of the United States because I believe in liberty, I believe in economic freedom and personal liberty, and because I think that I would be the best person to carry the torch for this party. I may be the youngest candidate in the race, but I am the oldest in libertarian years. I've been a party member since 2008 when I worked as your volunteer coordinator, and I turned your national office into a powerhouse of activism. And that's exactly what I want to do with your national ticket. Inspire young people to get out and turn out the boots on the ground that we're going to need to increase the national vote total. I worked on your national presidential campaign, the Bob Barr campaign. I was Bob's volunteer coordinator as well in Georgia, and I learned what it took as 50 states to put together a 50-state strategy. Of course, I wasn't in charge of that campaign, so I thought maybe one day if I do this myself, I could run things a little better. And then in 2012, of course, I was working at Fox, so I helped Gary Johnson get on as much television as possible, because I was the radical ideologue there at Fox amongst all the neocons trying to push this libertarian message and movement forward. Now, how I got that is a long story. It's an interesting one, and I'd love to give you guys the details, but I'll just gloss over it really quick. I majored in musical theater, went to Springfield, went to Missouri State University. I was a musical theater major, moved to New York City. After college, I graduated in 2003, moved to New York City in 2004, and I was a male model. I was a writer and producer of off-Broadway shows. I was a sitcom pilot director and writer, and I was basically trying to work my way into the entertainment business when all of a sudden my career started doing well and I started paying taxes in New York City. And that'll make you a libertarian fast. But I'd always been a libertarian at heart. I just had never had the sort of philosophical underpinnings and the intellectual underpinnings that I needed in order to articulate what were my deeply held beliefs. And those deeply held beliefs were cultivated on a farm in Peculiar where I learned the value of $1 by planting chrysanthemums and selling them in the town, and by practicing what my father and mother preached, which was love, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love one another, and always do what you can out of love in your heart and kindness for your fellow man. That's libertarianism to me. And so when I moved to New York City, I started paying taxes, and I got really upset. And I thought, well, you know what? It's 2007, and Rudy Giuliani turned New York City around. He's going to be my guy. He was going to be the best president out of all of them. And then I watched the Republican debates, and a little 70-year-old OBGYN from Texas just absolutely destroyed Giuliani on the foreign policy question. And I'm like, that's my guy. That guy, Ron Paul, is my man. And I went downtown with 12 of my friends in downtown Manhattan. We took 12 guys and we turned that into a 1,200 person organization, and we raised $1 million for Dr. Ron Paul.
Woo!
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, we were the biggest activist group there. So 2008 happened, Ron Paul dropped out. I cast my last vote for a Republican in 2008, and the Libertarian Party at the time, headed by Shane Corey, who was executive director at the time, said, hey, we can't help Ron Paul directly, but we can help the grassroots. Anybody who wants to help out Ron Paul, who's a grassroots, will call the Libertarian Party. So I called the Libertarian Party, the national office, and I said, can I use your phone banking software? And they said, great, yeah, sure. And I'm like, well, there's this thing called YouTube now. Maybe you guys have heard of this. So I made a YouTube video explaining how to use the ballot access software, how to use the phone banking software, excuse me. And sure enough, I have to apologize, I destroyed Libertarian Party servers because there were so many people, thousands and thousands calling. And it was so successful that the Libertarian Party said, hey kid, you want a job? And I'm like, absolutely. So I moved to DC, turned the office into a powerhouse of activism, started up the internship team, pioneered the use of digital media there and social media, and left a legacy. But while I was there, I was working on a secret conspiracy. I don't know if you guys have seen my flyer, but my campaign slogan is that I want to take over the government to leave you alone. And while I was there, I was brainchilding this project at the Libertarian National Office to get Judge Napolitano his own show. And because of the activism that I was able to create there, we were successful. And Judge Napolitano said, you kid, you're my number one. come to New York. So I moved back to New York City in 2010, and the Tea Party had just taken off at that time. And so it was a surge of activism. Thomas Massey, Justin Amash, Rand Paul, all of these libertarian senators and congressmen were being swept into Congress. And and we were at the head of this tidal wave. And we were the Tea Party show, the judge's show, Freedom Watch. I was his A1 producer. He's frequently referred to me publicly as the right side of his brain because I was the person he would go to because he knew that I always knew the story, I knew the guest, I knew the topic, I knew how to write the story, write the lead, because I'm always ahead of things and I stay on top of the news. All of this boots on the ground activism that I had learned was very useful because it helped me to propel forward Dr. Ron Paul's campaign in 2012 to be stronger than it was and to help Gary Johnson. Now, Gary Johnson, of course, was a Republican, but I decided, okay, well, I'm going to help support him anyway because this guy's very libertarian. And then I was happy to see that he dropped out and joined my party. And we supported him as much as we could by putting him on as much television as we could. After that show was canceled, I moved back to D.C. to work in more grassroots. I worked for Freedom Works, which some of you might have heard of, Matt Kibbe's institution. And then after that, I said, I've been talking about this capitalism stuff for so long, it's time I engaged in it. So I started up the Libertarian Republic News magazine, and 3 years later, I've been in business for 3 years. It's a profitable magazine. It's the second most popular libertarian online website in terms of readership, 1.5 million readers a month and 1 million listeners to my podcast. That's a big megaphone for the liberty movement, and I plan on using that should I win the nomination. For ethical reasons, I've decided I've stepped down as an editor to that simply because and hired an editor-in-chief because I wanted to be impartial and to cover the race impartially. But if I win the nomination, then we're going to turn all of our cannons towards Trump and Hillary. So the reason why I think I would be the best candidate is because I've had the boots-on-the-ground view, I've had the bottom-up view, and I've also had the eagle-eye view. I've had the bird's-eye view of what our movement is and what we can accomplish. And I know that we can accomplish great things if we just work together and we're willing to start at the bottom and build brick by brick what will be the next phase, the future of liberty. And I think that I represent that. And that's not me trying to be arrogant or cocky, it's simply that if you look at the demographics of the people who support me and the number of donors, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small donors. As a matter of fact, I actually have some really exciting news. Today is my single greatest fundraising day of the entire campaign. It's amazing. We've raised almost $5,000 today, and it's just pouring in from people. It's all small donations. The Koch brothers have not stepped in yet, but if Charles and David are here, then please do some private checks.
Please write us a check.
Yeah. We've covered my beautiful girlfriend, Ashley, who has been so helpful to me. Ashley, would you please stand up and please give her a hand. She has worked so hard. Driving me around. She drove me here today. She drove me to Iowa last night so that I could be fresh and be here for you all and be happy and sunny and bright. We've covered 17 states in 15 days. Today, there are 8 Libertarian Party conventions. We have presences at 5 out of 8 of them. And I think we're winning the Michigan straw poll right now. And I wanted to be here with you all today instead of in Pennsylvania because you're my people. And yeah, and this is we're of the same earth. We come from the same roots. And I thought that it would be better for me to come and be a part of this meeting because I think we share common bonds. I mean, we're skeptical. I'm very skeptical. And that shows because when a politician makes a promise, we don't believe, libertarians, we don't believe what a politician says. That's why we're the show me state. Show me, right? Well, I've been showing everyone what I'm capable of, working behind the scenes for the last 10 years for the libertarian movement. And if you give me this nomination, I promise you that I'm going to show up and I'm going to show out. Now, there's been a lot of controversy going on with my candidacy. I know a lot of you don't know me. Some of you may have heard things about me. In Colorado, I was specifically not invited to their convention, and I was told that they also voted to state that they were not allowed to tell me that I was not invited. So I went anyway. And I took second place. Boom. On their own turf. And this is how we're going to win. Because I'm being treated in this party now how Ron Paul was treated with the Republican Party. Are we afraid of ideas? Are we afraid of challenging our ideas? I'm skeptical. I say show me. If you give me an idea or a principle, if it's dogma or if it's ideology, I will question it, because my way of thinking is the scientific method, where I don't read something in a book and believe it. What I do is I find facts, put them together, create a thesis, and then try and prove it wrong. And then if I can't prove it wrong, then the thesis must be correct. That's the scientific method. I'm a Penn and Teller kind of a libertarian, a rational, logical libertarian. Not a Randian, in a sense. She was a little too militarist, perhaps, for me. I'm more of a Ron Paul on foreign policy. But I want you to know that if you do nominate me for this ticket, while I might be an unknown, they're going to hear about me. And if you've ever seen any of my television appearances, I'm a pit bull for these principles. And I fight for limited government like I have been doing every day for the last 10 years. I mean, Gary Johnson, he brags about going out and climbing mountains. That's great. You know what? I've been here fighting on the home front every single day to build this movement. And the people are at my back. I'm the grassroots candidate. I'm the anti-establishment candidate in my anti-establishment party. I don't know if that puts me in a good place or a bad place. But I'm comfortable with that because I'm a little bit of a rebel, but I've got a soul. And I think that the American people are going to love me because I'm going to bring these Midwestern values that we share to the American people. I think that I'm actually the most electable in this race for lots of reasons. Some of them are that I'm wholesome. There are no skeletons in my closet. Yes, I'm young, but there's no time. There hasn't been time for me to kill people in third world countries. and Gary, while he's a good man, I think that he's a great guy on paper, but I just don't think that the American people are going to vote for someone who is a pot dealer. We have no problem with that. But libertarians want to legalize that. But this is a year when, with the widespread dissatisfaction of the major parties, where the conservatives are going to say, are we going to vote for a third party, and are they going to be a libertarian? And if they're a libertarian, they're definitely going to be pro-choice. Well, guess what, guys? I'm pro-life. Thank you. I know this is contentious, but I don't want to get the government involved. In fact, the first thing that I always say when I say I'm pro-life is, let's legalize birth control over the counter so we can reduce the number of abortions. Conservatives are never going to vote for someone who is not pro-life. If I win the nomination, I'll be the only pro-life candidate on the ballot. And Ted Cruz supporters are still holding on to him, but they're all like, Austin, you're my second horse. Rubio supporters who didn't like Cruz are jumping on the bandwagon like crazy. I'm converting neocons. I mean, this is an opportunity, folks. So the conservatives are going to look at John McAfee and they're going to look at Gary Johnson and they're going to say no. And then they're going to look at me, if you put me up there, wait until you see me on the Fox Business Debate. And they're going to say, wow, here's a wholesome Missouri boy, born and raised on a farm, and made good in the big cities. He's electable. And then we got the Bernie Sanders supporters. Now, I've been beating up on Bernie Sanders a lot. But I've also been going to his conventions and to his rallies and his meetings. We went there on New Year's and interviewed them. And they have the same sort of anger issues with the establishment that Donald Trump does. And we can tap into that because we're the real anti-establishment people. We're the real people who want to bring down the cartels, the drug cartels, the banking cartels. We want to end the Fed. We want to institute free markets, real free markets. The Bernie Sanders supporters are angry, but they don't know why they're angry. Just like the Trump supporters are angry, they don't know why they're angry because they feel like they're getting screwed out of the system. I think that I can win those Bernie Sanders supporters who are going to be disenfranchised by the DNC. I think I can win those conservatives who are going to be disenfranchised by Donald Trump. I think that I can bring us a larger national vote total. I think I can bring us a victory this year. I've been nothing but net for the last 10 years. Nothing but net. For the last 10 years, I've been successful not as a Republican, but as a libertarian. Big L. So, nominate a libertarian. Nominate one of us. Nominate a fellow Missourian. Please be a delegate for me. Please donate to my campaign if you can, apforlp.com. Give me the hardest questions that you want to answer. I am not afraid. I'm totally transparent. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks.